Blake, I'm not in screen, and I'm wearing all black.
That's your choice.
Hold on.
That's your choice.
Now they can see me.
Now I'm.
Holy crap! Why are these so bright?
Look how white I am. I'm two-facing right now.
Look, you can't see me anymore. Don't broadcast this because it's a brand name.
Don't put that in the camera.
Oh, because
just look how dark it makes everything else. In a world far away, Joey still sucks.
Damn it!
Doesn't matter how far you get away from him.
In a world far away, Joey still sucks. Alright. Let me take off my jacket.
Because mine's not hot?
Because mine is not hot. Thank you.
That fucked with your head for the longest time.
I don't know where that's from. Can you
scoot
over?
Why?
Because I'm not in the camera.
But then I have to scoot the light over, and then I won't be as white.
And nerdy?
People have to know how white I am.
Are you white? Are
Very.
you? Are you? Like you're gonna see dots.
I'm not dots. I'm hoping to achieve what I achieved in middle school and see exclusively the color purple.
I enjoy that.
You enjoy the color purple?
You know what's not fun? Looking at someone welding and then getting flash burn. Do you know what that is? Okay, guess not.
Flash! Savior of the universe! You've never seen Flash Gordon.
Blake, you need to slide down a little bit, buddy.
Yeah.
There you go, buddy.
Now I'm short.
And
I don't like being short.
Oh,
I'm getting flashbacks.
From when?
From when I was smaller. And I wished I was a baller.
And a little taller?
Just a little bit taller.
There you go.
Down.
Oh, fuck.
Down.
It was kind of like me in the car.
Or you just in general. Fuck. I fucked it up again.
Blake, do you need to move that light a little bit away? Because your right side is just... This side is...
It's... Well, the right side is making my face look more accurate.
Oh, hold on. Let's try this. Right here.
Let's point it. Please don't hit the computer.
I didn't mean to.
Please don't knock over my computer. I would really appreciate it if you did not do that.
All
right, let's find that. But now my arm's in the way. Now my arm's just fucking with that. It's fine. I don't need that arm. Once I click this button, I don't need that arm anymore. I can lop it off. It's fine.
Why is it taking so long to get into this? Oh, it's only been 3 minutes. Never mind.
Ready? I'm hitting the button with my other arm now. I don't need it anymore.
Lop it off.
Holy shit, why is this game always so loud?
Loud!
I don't get it. And you know what else I fucked up? I don't have water. I don't have any water.
Okay.
It's okay. I can manage. You know what? I'm okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You had to take like a 5-minute break one time.
Yeah, we're still doing that.
Oh, okay, we're gonna do that.
Still doing intermissions.
We're gonna do the intermission?
Perhaps.
That
was my first time losing consciousness. Okay. You often hear of regaining consciousness on top of a bed, but this was my first time actually experiencing it. I feel so short. Hello? Are you okay? Realizing that I was awake, a young doctor called out to me. I didn't intend to respond, but it seems in my body language I told him I was conscious. My head was wrapped in bandages. The scratches all over my body had also been treated. My sense of pain also returned with my consciousness, causing me to groan from the intense pain shooting all throughout me. Don't try to get up. Just stay lying down, please. Seems that you took quite a few blows to the head. I want you to stay rested so we can monitor your condition for at least the next 24 hours. Where is this? This is my clinic. Pleased to meet you. My name is Irie. I remembered that. This young doctor is the one in the car headed the opposite way earlier. Is there somebody here? Where's Oishi-san? Ah, I'll call him over. There's no smoking inside the clinic, so I had him smoke outside.
I thought you didn't need that hand.
Apparently I did. It's okay, I have the hand from fucking Adam's family. It's just hanging around, just doing its thing. Dr. Irie left the room to go call Oishi. Scenery outside the window was tinted with gold. The pouring rain had stopped, with the voice of the Higurashi heralding the cooling temperature. Felt that the tone of the Higurashi's voices was comforting. Eventually I could hear heavy footsteps coming closer, which I reckoned to be Oishi's. The fog that was enveloping my head slowly faded back to reality. What had happened since then? What had happened to the boy? What about the reinforcements from Tokyo? The door to the room flew open, allowing Dr. Irie and Oishi to enter. Sir, there's no serious damage, is there? I can't promise that. I assessed the wound to his head was dangerous the moment I saw it. Got it. I want to have a little chat alone with him for a bit. Would you mind? Yeah, go ahead. Call me if anything happens. Oishi, after basically forcing Dr. Irie outside, shut the door. How are you feeling? I did something I'm not used to, so I'm pretty banged up all over. Oishi brought over a folding chair that was leaning against the wall and sat down beside the bed. Were the perpetrators arrested? Unfortunately, no. They've probably already fled the prefecture or are being hidden by the villagers. Well, we won't let them get away. What about the minister's grandson? They're taking care of him at the station. But your colleagues from Tokyo are rather insistent that nothing be recorded. Shiga-chan doesn't like that too much. The kidnapping was a confidential matter, so his custody was also probably being kept under wraps. How the kidnapping of the minister's grandson would be handled, how it would be covered up, treated like it never happened, would be handled by the brass. If this case ended without the nation going into an uproar about it, then our job had been done. The possibility that the minister had negotiated with the perpetrators couldn't be ruled out. But something like that was no longer my concern. My role in this case was over. Sorry for the trouble. You must think that public safety is rather unseemly place, don't you? No. We all work under on the government's dime. Oishi laughed boisterously. When we first met, I was somewhat prejudiced against Oishi, but now that feeling has gone completely. It would be more convenient for us if this case was handled properly instead of being hidden away. If that happened, we would be able to have something to go at the Sonozaki family with, since they were behind it all. Well, if we just start poking around, we'll get all sorts of pressure put on us, though. What a mess. Are you guys gonna continue to fight against the Sonozaki family after this? Nah. There's all sorts of dark rumors swirling around them, but it's not like I have a personal grudge. It'd be wise not to step on any toes here. Oh, she laughed happily, and I couldn't help but laugh along. Oh, that's right. There was word at the station from the prefectural police. Your colleagues arrived at Nagoya and are driving here right now. You've got your battle scar, so you're being recalled to Tokyo, apparently. That's how it's shaking up. Good job. Yorikonoki no Miya is safely over. I was being recalled back to Tokyo. I inadvertently breathed a sigh of relief when I heard those words. Yeah, like that. I'm deeply thankful for your cooperation, Oishi-san. Seems the collaboration fee I paid you didn't go to waste. I kinda meant that as a joke, though. Oishi took out his wallet, casually pulled out several large bills, jammed them into the breast pocket of my shirt. This isn't a refund on the collaboration fee, you hear? This is just me gifting you a little spending money. Booze around here is pretty good. Use this to buy yourself a little souvenir. Oishi flashed me a grin. If your injuries turn out to be not too serious, call me before you head back to Tokyo, will ya? The old man and Sato-san said they'd like to sit at a table with you again. Oh my, can't refuse that. And no tricks this time. Just some plain old fun. They always say that. This world is done for if an active officer can cheat that blatantly. It's not often that we meet someone who's more than a match for us. It's too bad you're going back to Tokyo. When I heard the words "going back to Tokyo" from Oishi, I was reminded once again that I was relieved from my duties. Soon, Yukie would be giving birth. It might still be possible to attend the delivery that I had at one time given up on. When I thought that, the pain from my injuries became trivial. I wanted to hurry back to Tokyo and see Yukie at once. Can you pretend that your injuries are a bit more serious and hang around Okinomiya for a bit? I can introduce you to a few nice places. Of course, I won't make you pay for everything. I'm terribly sorry, but I'll have to take a rain check on that. My wife is due to give birth any day now. I want to hurry back home. Oh my, I didn't know that. Then you shouldn't be hanging around here. You have to hurry back home. For a while after that, Oishi asked all sorts of questions about my wife, teasing and bantering with me.
It's coming to a close, it feels like.
It does feel like it's concluding, unless there's a sudden third act. Well then, how do you feel? Think you can get up? Yeah, it's not so bad thanks to you. I can get up and walk no problem. I stood up and shuffled around for a bit, which seemed to amuse Oishi. I just thought that you might not feel comfortable at a hospital in Anamizawa. Dr. Irie said he wanted you to stay overnight. But we still haven't caught the perpetrators. For the time being, this is enemy territory for you after all. Are you saying this hospital isn't safe? Well, Dr. Irie is somebody who's well regarded in the community. I don't think anything will happen while you're here, but I'm more worried about your mental health. I had relaxed a bit now that things had progressed this far, but it was exactly as Oishi had said. When I realized that this was enemy territory, I suddenly felt uncomfortable. But the only thing left for me to do was leave. The chance that I would come to harm was logically fairly low. But that didn't mean I was completely safe. That's right. If I'm just going to be lying down then, and doing it in a hotel bed won't be all that different. Right. I also think that's for the best. At that moment, I caught a glimpse of the clock over Oishi's shoulder. It was the evening. The hours when I could call Yukie at the hospital were almost over. I wanted to tell her as quickly as possible that I'd soon be back at her side. I want to call Yukie at the hospital. Is there a public phone in the lobby? You newlyweds are all like this. If I recall correctly, there's one by the register. I'll be waiting here, so go ahead. Oishi, laughing while saying that he was jealous, opened up the window, pulled out a cigarette even though he was in a hospital room. Appreciative of how considerate Oishi was, I set out to the lobby to find the phone. Lobby was just a short distance down the hallway from the hospital room. Thought that this hospital was a bit too grand for a village like this, but of course it was nothing compared to the general hospital Yukie was admitted to. Running inside a hospital wasn't the best of manners, but calling hours would soon end, and so I dashed over in a hurry. There was nobody else in the lobby. It may have been the evening, but there was nobody at the reception desk. Well, this might actually be lucky for me. Wasn't planning to have a conversation to feel guilty about, but it would still be embarrassing to have someone listen to the conversation between me and Yukie. Taking a quick look around, I soon found the payphone. Digging around in my pockets, I grabbed a few coins. I was calling Tokyo from here, so I'd burn through this amount fairly quickly. Picked up the receiver and inserted a coin, then dialed the number for Yukie's hospital, which I had completely memorized at this point. The number for Yukie's hospital had a lot of 8s and 9s, so dialing it in inevitably took some time. Normally it wouldn't be a big deal, but currently my time is precious. However, I felt that something was strange as I was dialing in the number. I don't even know exactly how to put it, but it was as if the receiver was too quiet. That unique white noise from the telephone line wasn't there. Huh? Somehow, I felt that I wasn't getting any feedback from the phone, and without feeling a response, I hung up the receiver to try again. The coin popped out from the return slot. I reinserted the coin and began dialing once again, but the receiver was still dead silent. What is this? Is it disconnected? While I was wasting time like this, the amount I had to spend talking to Yukie shrunk. I began to feel needlessly impatient. Excuse me. I felt the presence of someone on the other side of the glass, so I called out. There was an immediate response, and a man who seemed like a pharmacist came over. Yes, how can I help you? Pardon me. This phone seems to be acting a little strange. Could you take a look at it? The man came over and tried testing various things with the receiver pressed to his ear. Come to think of it, this was someone who worked at the hospital, not someone from the phone company. Just as I didn't know much about phones, neither would he. Huh? What's this? The man held up the cord that connected the phone to the wall. It was completely severed. What the heck is that? Well, this is a dilly of a pickle. Can't do anything with this until somebody from the phone company comes and fixes it. If you're looking for a phone, do you want to use the one in the office?
Oh, no.
I didn't want the people in the hospital office around while I was talking. Is there another payphone close by? Let's see. If you leave here and follow the road, you'll come out into the shopping district. I think there's a smoke shop on the corner around there. If you head that way, you should be able to find one soon enough. I was dressed in a hospital gown. I was wearing sandals on my feet. My head was wrapped in bandages. Just looking at me, you could tell I was a hospital patient. No matter how you looked at it, I was not dressed to be wandering outside. But that's where the impetuousness of youth came in. Damn. Not a word you see often. Choosing the chance to talk to Yukie for even a little longer, I headed outside in my current state.
Jeez.
Follow the road to the shopping district. Should be able to find one soon enough. With only those 2 lines as my guide, I ran outside the gate to the hospital. With the village nestled in a valley, when the sun set, it got dark quickly. The sparse streetlights lit up enough to start attracting moths. The Higurashi, knowing the time for their chorus was soon at a close, redoubled their fragile cries. Finding the payphone wasn't as easy as the person at the hospital had suggested. Was it still up ahead? Did I miss it already? Was it just getting farther away? Just as I was about to be crushed by the wave of uncertainty towering over me, I found a shop on the corner with cigarettes written on a small sign. My joy spurred me onwards. Just as I had heard at the hospital, set next to the counter of the cigarette shop was an antiquated payphone. I wasn't wearing a watch, so I didn't know what time it was. I probably didn't have much time left, though. But it was enough. Just as long as I could tell Yukie my job was done and I would be coming home soon. Picking up the receiver, I slid a coin down the slot. I felt that something was strange, just like at the hospital.
Oh my gosh.
Even after inserting the coin, the phone showed no response. I hung up the receiver and tried putting in the coin one more time. There was absolutely no response. This phone was dead. It couldn't be. Thinking that, I felt along the cord that protruded from the back of the phone. Doing that, my hands found the end of a completely severed line. What is this? Having now had the same thing happen twice, my bafflement was accompanied by a sense of unease. It seemed that the cord had been severed cleanly by a sharp blade of some sort, and I may be mistaken, but it didn't look like much time had passed since it was cut. Excuse me? Hello? Opening up the booth window of the tobacco shop, I looked for someone in the dimly lit interior. Eventually, there were the sounds of somebody plodding down some stairs, and an old lady appeared. The old lady's plodding and lethargic steps for some reason only served to make me more frantic. You need some cigarettes? I'll need to get my husband. I'm not here to buy cigarettes. Rather, this phone here. Realizing that saying the phone was broken and asking them to take a look at it was going to get me nowhere, I swallowed back my words. Sorry, it seems that this phone is broken, and I was wondering if you could tell me whether there's another payphone. The old lady moved her jaw up and down slowly as if chewing on the meaning of my words. It seemed that she wouldn't understand until she had digested things thoroughly. So the phone is broken? That's a dilly of a pickle. You should try another payphone. The old lady directed me to another payphone that seemed quite a ways away. Her way of telling me was so long-winded that I inadvertently started to get impatient. At that moment, I spotted a clock in the dim interior of the store. The minihand was just about to point straight up. Even if there was a phone right here that I could use, I'd only be able to tell Yuki a good night with the time I had left. On top of that, my destination was a remote payphone which I didn't know the exact distance to. If I was of a normal state of mind, deciding to give up the phone today would have been the natural thought process, but at that moment, I'd become somewhat stubborn for some reason. Unable to use the phone in the hospital and coming out here and still being unable to use one. There was no mistaking that I had become quite insistent on using a phone. Thank you very much. I'll try looking for that phone booth. Refusing her offer to draw me a map, I left the tobacco shop. They both said dilly of a
pickle.
According to the old lady, even though the phone booth was quite far away, it would be easy to find. If I just followed this road straight down, I'd eventually find it. Sandals flapping as I ran, I couldn't help but laugh at myself. I'll admit that I was quite steadfast about calling Yukie. But there were days when I was tired or busy when I wouldn't call her. Even today, my entire body was covered with injuries, and I was dead tired. On top of that, there wasn't much time left. It wouldn't be strange at all if today was one of those days I didn't call her. And having twice been foiled trying to call her, did I become hot-headed about it? Was I like a dog who was being told to stay with a piece of food dangled on my face? What am I doing? Even so, I somehow couldn't quell the uneasy feeling sitting in the pit of my stomach. It was like that with the hospital phone, and the same with the one at the tobacco shop. Both cords were definitely not severed from being frayed by long years of use. The clean cuts indicated that someone had taken something sharp and deliberately cut them. But who, and for what reason? The more I thought about it, the uneasier I felt, so I tried to push the thought aside. How much had I run so far? The scenery around me was no longer that of a shopping district with residential buildings scattered about the lonely road. Surroundings had already grown dark. I was blatantly out too far for a quick phone call, and it was quite obvious I was far removed from the hospital. I recalled the clock I saw at the tobacco shop. It might almost be time. I had run for quite a bit, so my breathing had grown quite ragged. If I had just wanted to hear Yukie's voice, I should have just thrown away my reservations and borrowed the phone in the office. I regretted it a little. Well then, is it about time to give up? Just when I thought that, I saw the light in front of me. I had finally found it. It was a phone booth. It seemed that the light in the phone booth had recently been changed, as it shone with a vivid white light. Although in the gloom of Inamizawa, it was nothing more than a gathering spot for moths. But in any case, I'd finally found it. As my hand touched the door of the phone booth, I realized that I was breathing and sweating heavily. I don't know what time it was right now, but even if it was just for a moment, I might be able to get in touch with Yukie. Since I had spent all this effort getting here, turning back without even giving it a try was out of the question. Before I picked up the receiver, another wave of uneasiness washed over me. I was worried that this phone cord might have been severed as well. How was the cord in this phone booth? Squatting down, I followed a bundle of cables as they ran along the corner into the ceiling. At a glance, nothing was out of the ordinary. I ran my fingers as far as I could along the line to check it out. The only thing they found was a thick layer of dust. Nothing out of the ordinary. I wonder if it was popular in Namizawa to cut the cords of payphones as some sort of tasteless prank. It might be prudent to talk to Oishi-san about this later. Even if it was nothing more than a prank, it was still vandalism of public property. In any case, this one was fine. This time. Pulling out a coin from my pocket with one hand, I picked up the receiver with the other. But this time, before the receiver even reached my ear, I felt something was off. The receiver was light. It was more than a slightly unpleasant feeling. It felt almost sickening. To verify the source of my displeasure, I peered at the receiver in my hand with a measure of reluctance. What the hell is this? The coiled cord that connected the receiver to the rest of the phone had been ripped apart, the tip of the cable swaying in the air. It was all I could do to restrain myself as a raw and unpleasant feeling worked its way up the small of my back. It was a type of dread. At that moment, I heard the crunch of somebody stepping on gravel. The light was reflecting off the glass walls of the booth, leaving me unable to see outside into the darkness. I steeled myself and stepped out of the phone booth. The inside of the booth was lit with that strong light which might have made it warmer in there. Just stepping outside, I could feel a chill wash over me. And there was the silhouette of a person. A small silhouette.
Oh, no.
The long hair of that silhouette was blown about by the cool breeze. Injured people shouldn't be sneaking out of the hospital. Somewhere in my head, I knew who this girl was. I didn't have any basis for it, but I knew that she was that girl. Right, Akasaka? Rika Furude, said that almost like it was a warning. Did you do this to the phone cord? Her expression remained unchanged, and my question was left unanswered. In other words, no response. Regardless, I felt that she affirmed my suspicions. Why would you do something like this? Why? The last word had a tinge of anger behind it. I frantically tried to smooth things out, but she didn't seem very afraid. There's nothing that can be done. Huh? I interpreted her words as meaning that I wasn't going to be in time for calling hours at the hospital. But thinking about it, that would have been a strange thing to say. Why would she know something like that? I could take what she had said to have any other meaning. She just stood there like a mannequin, not even moving an inch. Almost to the point that if the wind wasn't occasionally rustling through her long hair, there would be the illusion that time had stopped. I know very well that you think I'm disgusting, Akasaka. Huh? No. That's not true. My denial came out almost like a bad piece of composed for a poetry slam, but her words were right on the mark. I always felt something ominous and uncanny about her, ever since her strange threats at the shrine. She had noticed that my expression was contrary to my words, seemingly laughing at the gap between them. Akasaka, you coward. I'm not a coward. Being laughed at by this small child didn't sit well with me, so I said that. Even if you find another phone, it's too late. Sigh. That's right. She didn't even have to say it. I was absolutely too late. Might have already missed calling hours even by the time I reached this phone booth. I was too late. I had no option but to give up for today. Once I decided that, my unhealthy obsession with the phone suddenly faded. Even I thought it was strange that I was that obsessed. That strange obsession now gone, I began to laugh at how hopeless I was. I mean, just look at what I was wearing. It wasn't normal. A hospital gown and sandals. My head wrapped in bandages and my body completely soaked in sweat. It was a wonder that the old lady at the tobacco shop wasn't surprised to see me. With wanting to hear Yukie's voice as my motive, I had traipsed around the town and the entire evening. Again, another word you don't see coming up often. I didn't know whether to call it the follies of youth or simply plain embarrassing. In any case, it was all I could do but to laugh at myself. Now, there's nothing left for Akasaka to do tonight. You're right. There's nothing. I'll just quietly return to the hospital. That's fine. Do you know the way? I hope I do.
Uh-oh.
She waved her little hand as I began to head back to the way I came. She began to follow alongside me. Looking at her face, I could see that she wore a mischievous smile, as if she was extremely interested in whether or not I would get lost. Is Rika-chan's house also this way? It is. Won't your parents be mad that you're walking around alone at this hour? Not really. My parents are busy today, so they probably forgot about me. Even then, it's best if you head on home. They'll definitely be angry. Even if they are, it's much more interesting to talk with Akasaka, so I'm fine. She said that with a face free from worry as she looked up at me once more and smiled. When she showed me that smile, that eerie feeling surrounding her faded. But even then, she was still as mysterious to me as ever. We arrived at the corner I had turned at earlier. It was much darker than before, and with the point of view changed on the return trip, I wasn't very confident that this actually was the corner I turned at. It's not a mistake, it had to be this corner. As I began to move my feet again, a girl grabbed onto my clothes. Isn't Akasaka going back to the hospital? Of course, at least I intend to. Am I going the wrong way? Short moment of silence. Eventually, still holding onto my clothes, she began to walk. It was the beginning of the walk to the hospital this mysterious girl would take me on. Interesting.
Well, there's a third act.
Or this could be like the end of the second chapter where you think it's over, and then stab. Now it's over. But pretty sure he lives through it, so... Pretty sure he lives through this.
Yeah, because he says 7 years ago.
Yeah, so... Again, we don't know if in One Piece. The person who was running around cutting all the phone cords was you, wasn't it, Rika-chan? You shouldn't do that anymore. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Really? She tried to play dumb, but it was written all over her face. Mipa. It was obvious she was trying to laugh it off. But that adorable smile of hers just made me want to forgive her. I'm gonna be a horrible father, aren't I? That momentary lapse in tension was erased by her next words. It's good they found the grandson safe and sound. Unable to respond right away, I sunk into silence. I'd already learned this from Sato-san's info, didn't I? This girl, no, this entire village, knew everything since the moment I set foot into it. I considered playing dumb, but in the end I chose not to. With everything being known already, there was no point in me feigning ignorance. Somehow. That's great. Now you can go back to Tokyo. Thank you. Are your injuries bad, Akasaka? Dunno. I haven't heard anything from the doctor yet, so I don't know if they are or not. Huh? Come to think of it, I vaguely remembered being told to lie down and take it easy for at least 24 hours. Did that mean bed rest? The wounded shouldn't be sneaking out of the hospital. People shouldn't be cutting phone cords. Meep. I have no idea what you're talking about. Then I don't know what you're talking about either. As we played dumb with each other, we both laughed at the same time. If somebody saw us laughing at each other like this, it would probably bring a smile to their lips. Did not see that coming.
Perfectly placed. Would probably bring a smile to their face. Oh!
The chances of Akasaka, I'm losing it here. I'm thrown off. I need my water, damn it.
Akasafa.
The chances of Mufasa leaving this village.
Ooh, do it again.
The chances of Akasaka leaving this village alive weren't very high. I don't want Akasaka to die, so I'm glad you're leaving the village alive. Rika-chan, did you know what I was right from the beginning? She said nothing, but gave a firm nod. Well then, I think you know this, but we're probably somewhat of an enemy to the people in the village. I would think. But you still gave me lots of warnings. That's right. She said it at that time. She wouldn't warn somebody that she was okay with dying. She definitely said something like that. Then I should probably be thanking you. You probably should. I'm your savior. Saying that, she puffed up her chest proudly. She said it jokingly, but the meaning behind those words was quite heavy. That was because whether I lived or died was a decision that might have been made in a place unbeknownst to me. She said those words with such an adorable smile that it took a few moments of silence for their weight to settle in. I'd been to this place before. The Defense Alliance's office was there. It was the stone steps leading up to the Furude Shrine. When I passed by before, I was so focused on finding a phone booth I hadn't realized where I was. If I recall correctly, this shrine is Rika-chan's house, right? Yeah, something like that. Looking up at the shrine grounds, it was brightly lit and energetic voices could be heard. What was going on? There's a festival today. A festival? The best and only festival in Anamizawa.
No!
The Watsunagashi Festival.
No!
It is that night of all nights. Oh man.
And you know what happened on this night? The dismemberment.
It's the dismemberment. Watsunagashi? Cotton drifting? Just knowing the name is boring. You want to take a look? She asked bluntly, but seeing that I looked interested, she climbed up a couple of steps and motioned for me to come. I was only going to go back to sleep anyways. If I had nothing else to do, it might not be a bad idea to go with her on a little detour. In the hostile territory that was this village, I didn't know what would happen if I ventured down a side road without Oishi. Even though I thought of the village like that when I was with this girl, I forgot all about it. In any case, even without anything to back it up, I thought that as long as I was with her, none of the ill will from the village would befall me. That's why, even though I knew my cover was blown, I strangely had no qualms about setting foot into the heart of the Onikafuji Defense Alliance's territory.
Hey guys, how's it going? I know I'm your enemy.
I know I kind of just fucked up your plans, but... party! Climbing up to the grounds of the shrine.
Ooh, new song.
Not a new song.
Oh no, it's not.
I could see there were about 3 pavilions set up, with meeting tables and folding chairs. The old folks from the village, no, the executives of the Defense Alliance, were already quite drunkenly sharing another round of drinks. I could only see it as the people from the village council were drinking while enjoying the evening air. At the very least, it was certainly quite different than any festival I'd ever seen. See? It's quite a boring festival, isn't it? This certainly doesn't look like a festival. It's a festival that's happened since long ago, but as you can see, it's not like it used to be. As if to chide the old folks, she said that while looking at them with an exasperated expression. Really couldn't call this a festival anymore. This was a bunch of neighbors getting together and to drink under the guise of a festival. I feel sorry for the deity being celebrated here. Give this sorry excuse for a festival 5 or 6 more years, and everybody in the village will start coming. The ceremony will also be done properly, and it'll be a respectable festival again. What she said was not so much wishful thinking as it was telling of a future that had already been determined. She wasn't even predicting it, it was almost like she was simply reporting the results. That's how it sounded. Even though it was baseless speculation, the way she said it wouldn't let me interject. It was the same way when she talked when she was changed. While I struggled to find the words to reply to her, she wandered over to the other side of the grounds, not minding me at all. Not in a state where I could afford to be left behind, I hurriedly followed after her. Passed through a copse of pine trees, a strong and cool breeze ruffled my hair. There, my hair. Fabio. There, from that one evening, was the splendid observation platform the girl had shown me. As it had grown completely dark, the modest lights littered across the nightscape were providing a different type of scenery. Looking at it like this village seems tranquil. She said that with an indifferent look on her face. Just the other day, you said that this village definitely wouldn't be submerged by the dam, didn't you? She didn't reply, seemingly relishing in the feeling of the wind blowing through her hair. Didn't that mean, at that point in time, the minister had already complied with the demands? She spun around, her gaze meeting mine. But she said nothing. She spoke nothing that would neither confirm nor deny what I had just said. This case will probably remain shrouded in darkness. Oh, this is... okay, sorry. This case will probably remain shrouded in darkness. Headquarters probably doesn't want trouble from a scandal with the minister breaking out. There's no mistake that they threatened to kill the grandchild. Then negotiations with the minister were successful and the grandson was released. The one who saved the grandson was you. I wonder about that. The discovery of that wallet that started this chain of events. That alone was almost too convenient, I think. Ever since the moment that wallet was discovered, I felt something was odd. Oishi said it as well. That the Sonozaki family had given the order to release the hostage. Meaning that our little manhunt was a farce to begin with. Come to think of it, I was punched, kicked, and had a gun pointed at me. Felt like they put up quite a fight, but that might have been all part of a good performance. Once the negotiations were successful, they couldn't just say, "Here you go," and return the minister's grandson right to his doorstep. They knew that public safety had realized that this was a kidnapping case and were moving in on it. That's why, due to the actions of public safety, the grandson was able to be rescued safely, so the minister didn't give in to any unreasonable demands. That type of performance was necessary. I don't know about these difficult things. Likewise. Even for me, I can't make much sense of it. But there's one thing I can be certain of. Oh? It's just as you said. This village won't be submerged. The dam project will soon be over. That wasn't something an officer of the law should be saying. But I naturally let those words slip from my mouth. This village may have stirred up all sorts of trouble, but that was because they were protecting their homes. Someone just decided by themselves that I had to leave the house I was used to living in. I would resent them as well. On top of that, it wasn't a place like mine where I just happened to be renting it, but a place that their families had lived for generations. It might be ignorant to call their desperate resistance an overreaction. I might not really be qualified to criticize politics or bureaucracy, but deliberately building a dam on land that was loved by its residents wasn't something I could get behind. Still, aren't you glad? Oh. Still, aren't you glad? Why would that be? At the very least, with this, peace will return to this village. Even though the minister promised to use his considerable influence to cancel the project, it would probably take more than a few months before it would be completely scrapped. At the very least, it would probably take 1 or 2 years. For the villagers to officially hear that their village wasn't going to be submerged at the bottom of a dam was still a ways away. It was no mistake that the promise of peace returning to the village was there. It turned out from the beginning to end that it had already all been decided. Just as the girl had said, it was decided. There wasn't really a need for me to come here in the first place. There was absolutely no need for me to have come in here and aggravated an unpleasant situation. If I had never come here, then the grandson's release might have been done in a more amicable manner. Peace? In this village? When I nodded, she laughed as if to admonish me, but her face remained indifferent, expressionless. And then her eyes narrowed slightly as she snickered. Even though every year from now on, something bloody will occur? Rika-chan, what are you talking about? As the wind blew her hair about the girl as if taking pleasure in that I was the only one who didn't know, continued to snicker as she looked at my face for a while. You see, and if... Come on, Joey, pull it together. Pull it together. Pull it together. You see, in a few years, I'll be killed.
Oh.
Huh? Blacklit by the moon, it was hard to tell if her expression that had been cast in shadow was smiling, amused, or resigned. You are? Why? It's a very unpleasant thing, though. It's also probably been decided already. Decided already? Who would decide that sort of thing? I'd like to know that as well. Turning back to face me, she showed me a resolute expression for the first time. And after staring into my eyes for a moment, she turned back to gaze at the scenery before she spoke her next words. There's a lot of people who have no regard for human life. Even if I tell you this, it might not change anything, though. But if you you want to erase the specter of death, sometimes, like with the reflection of the moon on the water, all you have to do is throw a small stone. I had no idea what she was trying to say. It's just, I had to listen to every word with my body and soul, or at least that's what I thought. This day, next year. Yes. June 1979, on this day. The foreman of the dam construction project will be killed.
Oh.
So it's the next year. So it's not this year.
Yeah.
The dismemberment's not this year. What? For a moment I couldn't comprehend what she was talking about. By the foreman, did she mean that gruff old man I played mahjong with? Be killed? What makes you think? She didn't answer. But she had the same expression on her face as she did when she declared that the dam project would go away. That wasn't the face of somebody making a forecast or a prediction. It was something that was already decided. No, it was as if she was already reporting the results. That sort of expression. After being killed in a gruesome manner, the body will be torn apart and disposed of. Murdered, dismembered. The next year, in June of 1980 on this day, Satoko's parents will be pushed to their deaths. Satoko. It was the first time I heard that name, but I didn't have the courage to interrupt the girl's story. It might be an accident. An unfortunate accident. The girl smiled faintly. She wasn't exactly encouraging me to smile along with the lifeless look in her eyes. And then, the year after that, this day in June of 1981, my parents would be killed. And then the year after that, this day of June in 1982, Satoko's abusive aunt will have had her head split open and die. And then the year after that, this day in the June of 1983, or possibly a few days afterwards, I will be killed. If all the deaths are preordained, then the last one would also be all according to plan. But then whose plan would it be? This village is full of murderers and people who have no regard for human life. It would be fine to believe that all of the deaths up to 1982 would be the work of somebody in the village. It would be fine to believe that all the deaths that would occur were at the discretion of those who control the village. But that didn't explain what would happen in 1983. There was no way that the last death would fit in with anybody's plans.
Yeah.
Akasaka?
No. Sorry, I forgot that we had swapped.
Keiichi?
Keiichi. Why is he thrown in all of this?
I don't know. We'll see.
Wait, but Rika's there whenever Keiichi...
Hold on. Let's keep going. They had no regard for human life. They would use every means at their disposal to meet their goals. But their goals were at odds with the last death. That's why the last death was unrelated to them. But that last death would definitely, most likely, probably, without question, happen. Probably, definitely, I dare say. This guy's wishy-washy. The last death would be a merciful one. A handkerchief or something being placed over their mouth, making them lose consciousness never to wake up again. Exactly whose plan was that? I want to live happily. That's my only wish. Surrounded by my precious friends, spending our days enjoyably. Only that. I don't wish for anything more than that. Rika-chan. I don't want to die. The girl, stoic as ever, let those last words slip in the end.
What the fuck is going on?
Eventually we were discovered by some drunks. The girl as well as I were dragged back to the festivities. Everybody was completely drunk, so even when they saw my head completely wrapped in bandages, they wouldn't let me leave. Well, certainly if I was in good enough condition to slip out of the hospital, it must not be that serious. The girl was mingling with everybody, being pampered like a kitten. Her expression was adorable, nothing like the one from just before. Predicting her own death and whispering that she didn't want to die. Having said that, having a silly and lively conversation like this, it was hard to believe that these people were the core of an extremist resistance group. Even if it was a shell of its former self, it was a festival where people in the village gathered, so the 20-some-odd folk here should have included some of the village executives and other important members. Among those, there was no doubt there were members that were at the Sonozaki family council in attendance. Meaning, even if we never met face to face before, there were definitely people here who knew my identity. In a small village like this, they knew the faces of all the villagers that lived here. That's why, without even saying anything, it soon became obvious that I was an outsider. They actually seemed interested by that, asking me all sorts of questions about Tokyo, drinking while musing on the faint relationship that the city had with the villagers and empathizing with the rather meager environment. Confidential talks with the minister were finished. His grandson was in police custody. Everything was over. I might not have to be put in another perilous situation. To me, they were only my adversaries because of my job. Outside of that, there was no reason I couldn't be friendly with them. The next time I visited this village, would it return to being a tranquil and beautiful place? If that happened, I might be able to take a relaxed walk around the village with her again. My cup was once again filled to the brim with beer. By the time I was able to get away, it was the middle of the night. The girl had at some point disappeared. It seems that her parents had told her to go home and sleep when she let out a large yawn. The old folks, who had absolutely no remorse for making an injured person hang out with them, told me as much as they laughed. I was just there drinking, so I had thought to help a bit with cleanup. However, my help was refused on the grounds that I was a guest. On top of that, they had a car prepared to take me back to the hospital.
Man.
Losing the battle against my sleepiness inside the car, I was sound asleep until we reached the parking lot of the hospital. The front door of the hospital was naturally locked at this hour. I wandered around bewilderedly searching for a back entrance until somebody on night duty found and let me in. Where were you at this late at night? Dr. Irie was worried, you know. Sorry for the trouble. I was held up by the people having a festival at the shrine. Oh, they did say something about everybody in the town council getting together for a drink. My condolences. Are your wounds alright? They're throbbing a bit. It's probably because of the alcohol, I think. Oh, that's right. The detective that was with you wanted to get in touch. Oops. I kept the Oishi-san waiting. I glanced at the clock. No matter how he looked at it, it was way too late to call him now. I'll apologize to him tomorrow over the phone. I returned back to my hospital room and slipped into the bed that was still unmade from the time I went outside. Oh, that's no good. I have to turn off the lights. My weariness had cut the cord powering my body, lulling me to a deep sleep.
Man.
There we go.
Short chapter.
I don't know if it's over.
I think it is.
You think it's over?
He's going to sleep.
You seem like you're going to sleep. Oh, fuck!
Mother!
I don't want to die!
I'm Rika-chan.
Oh, shut the fuck up. So we got 3 diaries. Mother's diary.
Is it Rika?
Well, we'll see who it is. There was something I didn't like about my child.
Oh?
I first realized it when I started writing these things down. They never warn you about it in any books about raising children, but they aren't just a plaything. They aren't able to feel loved even when they're not doing exactly as their parents want them to. Then those parents are failures. This wasn't something like that, though. How can I say that? Or how can I say it? It's probably hard to express with mere words. I just want my child to be average. As long as they weren't falling behind, there wasn't any need for them to excel at something. As long as they acted appropriately for their age, I would have been fine with it. My child had been different ever since kindergarten. While the children in her class were running around in excitement about the field trip the next day, she only wore a bored look on her face, aloof and distant. This might be Rika's mom. When the other kids broke the equipment for the athletic festival and were apologizing fervently, she only wore a bored look on her face, aloof and distant. When the teacher was reading a fun picture book, only she wasn't smiling. Even if they all got to eat a delicious bento, only she wasn't happy. If it was only this, it would still be in the realm of understanding. However, what I don't understand about my child is that if the aforementioned situations happened again, they'd now act in a manner befitting their age. I don't understand the principle behind that as a parent. Why were they indifferent about the field trip, but happy about this one? Why were they indifferent about that picture book, but happy about this one? Why were they indifferent about that bento, but happy about this one? The former and the latter in each situation seem exactly the same to me. There was even times when I thought the former was better. I don't understand that child's feelings. During parent-teacher meetings, the teacher always says the same thing. And I would always respond that I don't understand my own child, and we would mope together. My husband, always the optimist, once said that a young child's feelings are different from an adult's, so if there were some things we didn't understand, we shouldn't worry about it. I lament his lack of urgency. One day, while I was in a good mood, I took the effort to prepare a menu that my child would enjoy. She only smiled with a vague expression of disinterest. That attitude frankly made me angry, so I hit her on the head. On a day when the weather was nice, the laundry I had just hung up to dry was blown by a large gust of wind, causing the entire line to fall down. But she, watching me trying to pick up the laundry in a panic, stood there laughing. That attitude frankly made me angry, so I hit her on the head. I think the same sort of thing happened countless times. Before I knew, my child was only able to look at me with an indifferent expression on her face. I regret the fact that I've been a bad mother. Thinking I should regain her trust, I thought to get it back little by little with some light interactions. Seeing her do some sort of craft work on the veranda, I called out to her. These past few days have been nice and sunny. The air feels nice, doesn't it? That child, with that indifferent look on her face I had hated so much, looked at me for a moment, then without a word returned to immersing herself in her craft work. Up until now, I would have hit her on her head just for that. I held myself back. What are you making? Is it a doll? A weather charm. That child was using inserts from the newspaper to definitely make some weather charms. The forecast hadn't called for rain. But that child, in her own way, was praying that these sunny days would continue. Being able to understand my own child for the first time in a while, I couldn't hide my own happiness. Bringing out a ball of yarn, I began to hang my child's cute weather charms from the eaves of the house. It's no good, Rika. The heads are too heavy, see? Called it. They've become reverse weather charms now. If they're like this, they'll call the rain instead of the sun. When I started to take them down, my child tugged at the hem of my skirt as if to stop me. Because I made them to be upside down. They're fine. But, Rika, if they're upside down, they won't be the charm that calls for a sunny day, you know? I was making a charm for it to rain, so they're fine. I desperately suppressed the emotions welling up inside me. I was trying desperately to understand my child. Oh, I see. The morning glories in the garden were starting to get a little wilted from all the sun, so you wanted some rain, right? Child turned to me with the expression that I hated the most. I got bored of the clear weather. I don't understand. I just can't understand that child.
She's the one that wrote.
She's the one that's been in all the previous notes. The
bored of the rain, or bored of the sunny days, and then the one that's like...
about choice.
Choice, yeah.
We might see how that comes into play on these other two diaries. Very, very, very interesting.
It's gonna be funny if she plays the box trick on her mom.
I thought you were just gonna say she plays the boss at the end of the game.
Bum, 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 bum.
Press X to drop kick. During the family council, she buried herself under Oreo-san's futon again. Oreo-san dotes on her unwaveringly. No matter whatever insolence my child commits, she doesn't mind. It's almost as though my child is a kitten or something. Oreo dotes on her exactly like you would with a kitten. As her mother, I chided her for doing that. So Oreo-san had said 3 times that it was fine, and I chided her as a formality. Of course, she never lends an ear to any of my chidings. Knowing that Oreo-san's standing was far above mine, she behaves like that. I don't like the cunning that's unbefitting of her age either. In any case, not only Oreo-san, but the rest of the old folk in the village spoil her too much. One day I was surprised. By chance, on the way back from some shopping, I saw her by herself just outside a candy shop. My own child suddenly grabbed a snack, opened the package right there and then, and started eating it. She didn't make any attempt to pay for it, and she didn't even think of looking around. It didn't even feel like she was shoplifting, more like she was brazenly eating snacks that was offered to her. When I began to admonish my child, the elderly shop owner appeared and covered for her. The owner gave the ridiculous excuse that he had said it was okay for the child to eat any of the snacks out by the entrance, so it was fine. When I tried to pay for the snacks that my child had eaten, the owner refused my money. During that exchange, more old folks suddenly gathered around, and it began to feel like I was the one in the wrong. The elderly people all put their hands together reverently in front of my child and repeatedly voiced their respects. I was born into the Furure family, so it wasn't like I didn't know she was being... So it wasn't like I didn't know why she was being treated specially. When I was still young, it was something I heard often from my grandmother. If by chance the child that I gave birth to was a girl, that child would be the living incarnation of Orishiro-sama. All the older folk believe that she's the living incarnation of Orishiro-sama and spoil her rotten. Not only did they spoil her, they even told her she was the living incarnation of Orishiro-sama. That she had a divine power and threw all sorts of strange folktales her way. So she may have begun to believe herself that she was a special existence. I went around and told everybody that it wasn't good for her upbringing, so to stop tell her all these strange things. But there was no unrooting the elderly people's deep-seated superstitions. I told my child not to listen to them, but it ended up being that she stopped listening to me. Between all the old folks in the village and who would dote on her and myself, who only scolded her, there was no wonder who she would listen to. There was no mistaking that the reason she had become strange was because of the elderly villagers. There was no doubt that they had shoved her full of strange folktales and superstitions since she was young. If it wasn't for that, there was no doubt my child would have been cute and normal. Alright. On to the third one.
And on to the next one.
One sunny parent-teacher day, it was a cooking class, and my child was making curry rice with a practiced hand.
Curry!
While the other children her age were awkwardly using their kitchen knives, that child was wielding hers deftly. The teacher approached me with a smile on their face, saying it must be a result of learning it at home. I managed to play it off with a vague smile and a nod in response. That was because I had never once taught my child how to make curry rice. Even then, she was peeling vegetables with a practiced hand and adding them into the pot in the order of which took longer to cook. For a normal parent, they might unintentionally clap their hands together, happy at their child's actions. But in my case, it was different. There was no mistaking that somebody had taught her how to make curry rice when I wasn't taking care of her. Thinking that, I quietly fell into an unpleasant mood. When I asked, it seemed she could also only sew and do the laundry. I never taught her how to do those, and again, never saw her do it around the house, be it cooking or sewing or the laundry. Again, that was probably because the elderly villagers taught her all sorts of rubbish when I wasn't looking. Not only that, they probably taught her all sorts of strange superstitions, trying to prop her up as the living incarnation of Orishiro-sama. I said as much to my husband, suggesting that we should keep her child away from the elderly folk. But my husband, who was in the position of being the head priest of the Furure Shrine, had little power against the elderly who supported it. He took the rather uncommitted stance of saying that as long as she was being doted upon, wasn't it fine? I argued against that. That she was her child and should be a completely normal girl. That what the elderly were expecting, that she was the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama, was simply odd. The elderly villagers believe that the child has divine powers. We would discuss the weather for the following day, but there were many times when I left the house without an umbrella and came back soaking wet. Rather than having clairvoyance, that was just secondhand knowledge from her watching the news all the time. The things that she knew that she shouldn't have known were just a result of people who were trying to indoctrinate her, and the people who were gossiping getting together in the village. However, there certainly were days when everybody thought it was going to be sunny all day, and that child would stubbornly not go out without an umbrella. It would occasionally rain, and in the end we would be saved. There might have also been times where Rika knew of major accidents in foreign countries faster than the news did. I thought that she might have heard it break over the radio or something, knowing things that she shouldn't have. Something like that. It was in front of me right now, wasn't it? That child was making curry rice when there shouldn't have been anybody who taught her how to. No, that couldn't possibly be the case. Somebody had taught her, indoctrinated her. When I wasn't taking care of her, somebody had indoctrinated Rika with something. Furude-san's curry is absolutely splendid. I'll give it a gold star. Mipa! Where did you learn to cook, Furude-san? At home? Yes, at home. The other parents and attendants were impressed. Lies, all lies! I didn't teach her anything! Who was it? Who was it? Who was the person who had completely indoctrinated my child? She was my normal, average daughter, not the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama. Okay. Oh, that's the last of the tips. Because that achievement just popped. It's not the end of the story, so there is one last chapter of this story.
Okay. Something that I was thinking about reading those.
Go on, closer to the mic.
She knows how to do all of these things.
Yes.
At such a young age.
Yes.
With no one teaching her.
Supposedly.
If that's true, she would have that knowledge in a previous life, or...
Are you talking reincarnation?
The reincarnation of Orishiro-sama. And she knows of incidents, and she knows of all the deaths.
She has an ability of clairvoyance.
Yeah.
The question is... just... how?
I'm leaning more towards curse now.
It's supporting the idea that she has some sort of supernatural ability.
Yeah.
That she is, in fact, special.
Mm-hmm.
And... I don't know, what do you make of this episode that we just had? All the phone lines were cut.
She obviously did
Rika had to have done it.
She predicted that he would want to call Yuki.
And he would go to that length to do it. Just so she can have a conversation with him. But then it's interesting in that she knows that she's going to die. She doesn't want to die. So she is not entirely with the idea of being part of this.
Mm-hmm.
She is in some ways against it. Because she knows it leads to her own death. And she wants to live a long, happy life.
Could that...
And she's probably, based on some of the tips, she's probably annoyed. And... Oh, I just realized something. The idea of choice. Rika has none. Because of her ability of clairvoyance. She knows exactly what's going to happen. She gets no choice.
Oh.
That could possibly have something to do with it.
Huh.
The idea of choice is taken away from her, since she knows the results. But then it places the question of, can future be changed? Or is it predetermined and there are no forces that go outside of it? Because it seems like, at least with these past few chapters, everything has been, for the most part, going as planned.
But see, here's the think. It's been going as planned until Koichi shows up. Keiichi. Who's
Not
Koichi?
exact. Koichi's from JoJo.
Right.
Not exactly. I don't recall her ever being reported dead in the Onikakushi chapter, the first one. But she does die in the second one. She does die in the third one. So she does die that year. She does in fact die.
She comes up missing in the second one.
No, she's dead. She was found in the bag with the crows.
That's right.
She was a corpse. So yeah, Rika died. So based on this, it's saying that Rika will always die
With
in 1983 on the nights. Oh no, she said a few days after the night of the Watsunagashi. She said on the night on that day, or maybe a few days afterward. The question is, can she see other timelines? Because we do have this, since it is multiple chapters having multiple different outcomes, can she see these multiple outcomes? And perhaps this will be like, I don't know if you ever saw it, Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya.
I've heard of it, never saw it.
There is a character that has seen during the arc known as the Endless Eight. One of the characters is conscious of all the thousands and thousands of times these characters are looped in the certain day. Like a day loops for thousands of times, but it's across 8 episodes.
So kind of like in Steins Gate, he's the only one that's aware.
The reading Steiner ability.
Yeah.
And that she is the only one, she's anchored, and that she can always, she's aware of these different outcomes. She's aware of these different timelines.
So, could it be...
It's possible.
Could it be that Keiichi, his choices determine when she will die?
I'm unsure. Because based on the after party of the previous chapter, it's not entirely Keiichi that determines whether or not whether a bad end's going to happen, unless it was more of a red herring, or there's just forgetting an element. Like maybe Keiichi does play a role in it. Possible. But it does raise questions about Rika's abilities. If she has any abilities. It's definitely leaning towards supernatural elements.
Also, why didn't she tell him that he was going to die that night? If this is Tomatake.
This is not Tomatake.
This is
I
not-
am almost convinced this is not Tomatake. Like, the more we read through this, the less I'm convinced this is actually Tomatake.
But his camera, it said it.
That doesn't mean anything. It could be entirely coincidental.
Hey, we want to throw his name in there. Just slap it on
Reference.
the camera.
Or it could have a link somewhere later.
Yeah.
Like he could have his own line of cameras or something. I don't know, but that's all the time we have for this one. We'll leave more conjectures for a later episode. For the finale.
If it is.
Oh, it's gonna be the finale because that's the last of the tips. There's no more tips. That usually means the next episode is the last one.
Okay.
And then we have the after party. So there's going to be 2 more episodes left of this chapter, Himatsubushi. And then we can jump on in
To the answer arcs.
with Mayakashi.
Yeah.
Finally.
Dive
the
in.
answer arcs.
I am excited.
I cannot wait to get to those
It's
fucking
only
answers.
been, 3 years.
No, it's not. It's
2
only
years?
2 years. We started in 2017. Like, late 2017.
Yeah. But still, it's like
It's
a
been
year
like,
and a half.
it's not even 2 years. Alright. Delaying enough. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.